When we come on the air with breaking news, we've just learned the COVID-19 vaccine has arrived at Carolina East in New Bern. Let's get right to Stacia Strong. She's there now with this breaking update. They tell us that the murder happened in Franklin County, Virginia, which is just south of Roanoke. If you have bald tires, it's going to be tough. Just kind of goes about to the ankles, and if I go back there, you're going to see it even more. Yeah, voter turnout, Liz, not too bad so far this morning. When the polls opened at 6:30, there were, a handful of people waiting at the door. Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is trying to work with other states to try and stop these robocalls.
The ones where they tell you that your vehicle is out of warranty.
Let's get a check of the weather with Jim Howard. He's sporting a fantastic beard. It's only going to get better, but he might need a jacket later on today. You can't see the face I'm giving you, but really, you think that looks like me?
It's been a long 7 years. I just wanted justice for Aaliyah.
The frozen face of Lena Lunsford Conaway as soon as the jury found her guilty of all 4 charges, including murder. On the 6th day of the trial, there was question of whether or not the fate of Lunsford Conaway would be determined in the same day. But after the defense team, led by attorney Tom Dyer, called just 2 witnesses to the stand, the case was in the hands of the jury before the end of the workday. Since Aaliyah's disappearance, the Lewis County community became family in trying to bring justice for a 3-year-old girl.
We made a promise back in the very beginning that we would not stop.
The community became a voice for Aaliyah, so much as to putting her face on posters and signs throughout Weston, asking people to find her. Brandy Nesbitt told 5 News she's logged hours and has taken countless steps working to help find Aaliyah.
I just hope now that maybe we'll be able to find her.
Her goal still to find justice for Aaliyah.
Give her a proper burial, what the baby deserves.
Shortly after the verdict was reached and presented into a packed circuit court in Lewis County, emotions spoke for themselves.
There's some closure, but it's just so many questions still. Why? Whenever she had family, she had people that would be willing to help her, and she just chose not to do that.
For now, they have something they've waited 6.5 years for.
I feel like we're starting to get that now.
For 5 News, I'm Austin Pollack, keeping you connected in Lewis County. Darkness. Sometimes feeling like there's a pit in your stomach, like something bad is about to happen. Sunlight or light shining from a lighthouse, usually a sign that promise is on the horizon.
It's always been a little symbol.
As we approach Ocracoke, early in the morning, weeks after Hurricane Dorian pounded the island, the sun's rays beam on scattered, precious, decades-old belongings. Residents and volunteers say perhaps that sunshine is fueling the recovery process, but remnants of darkness remain.
The long-term recovery is the piece now that is most important.
I met Emily Carey before the sun came up, hours before, in fact, around 6 a.m. She was next to us boarding the ferry from Cedar Island to Ocracoke.
Half of my time, then, instead of working and spending time with my own family, I've been on Ocracoke and kind of made them part of my family.
Many have said the shock is over.
The need now is, rebuilding, still tearing out houses.
Business owners refusing to call it quits. Some able to start over after Dorian tried to strip them of all they had.
We had 165. Now we have 7.
A decade ago, John Jagu bought a couple of golf carts. No, not to play golf. It's one of the main ways of getting around the island. Turns out people wanted to rent them. Fixing up a few carts turned into a promising opportunity.
It's fun growing a business, and it's fun to have, this is where we live. This is home. We can't, just pack it up and go.
Until Dorian wiped out more than 150 of them.
Nothing runs anymore.
The morning of the storm, Jagu was asleep until his wife woke him up and said there was water in their backyard.
We have a 6-foot fence in the backyard, and it was almost the top of the fence.
Dorian putting his business.
The water was up to here.
And that investment at risk. A season cut short.
This reverse buzzer, and I came up here and the reverse buzzers were going everywhere.
You bet he's not calling it quits. He has 6 truckloads of carts coming in next month. That'll put his inventory close to where it was before the storm. Some, though, still trying to pick up the pieces one by one on their own.
It can be fixed eventually.
Sandy Morris grew up right here.
This used to be my room.
Her early memories still stitched in her mind.
It's very emotional to come into a place where you grew up, play with your toys, had your friends over.
Her family.
Do you think it was about up to here in this part?
My mom is one of the most positive, bubbly people. With all this devastation, you can see that that's just kind of gone in them a little bit.
Morris's mother is living with her because, as you can see, the home isn't livable. She was able to salvage some of the most precious things.
My mom loves to read.
The books, though, now have a story of their own, separate from the words on the page.
She lost a lot of books.
And a lighthouse, typically leaving a mark, not offering the brightness the family needed.
It's always there and it's always working. Stay steady. And it was a very odd feeling not to have that light on for a while.
The light has since come back. The sun's still coming back up, but there's more light missing. In fact, it's hiding. A daughter, wondering if it can be restored.
They feel lost. They don't have their regular life. They don't know if they can even put that life back together.
Reporting in Ocracoke, Austin Pollack, WITN News.
She loved her family, and that's what she stood for, was for her family and love.
Bethany Boykin's grandparents were married for 64 years.
She would take me shopping at Belk's and let me get whatever I wanted.
She is Dot Beeman, better known as Honey.
She made it very well known that those would be my school clothes and my good clothes.
Honey and her granddaughter Bethany created endless memories.
Her jam is something nobody else can make, which was strawberry jam. And you always had that on toast, that or her pear preserves.
Sometimes the relationship between a granddaughter and her grandmother just clicks. But Honey had a stroke in July, and Bethany's wedding wasn't until November. She knew time wasn't on her side.
They were going to bring hospice in, and my heart broke, and I knew that that was it. That was my last grandparent, and that's all I have left. And when they're gone, you can't get that back.
They had the chance to make one more memory. So Bethany got in touch with someone who has been like family.
I immediately dropped everything what I was doing, and I made it work. Because I lost my grandfather in 2015, and I've recently just lost my other grandfather in September, and it hit me hard, because grandparents are a big thing to me.
Taylor is Bethany's friend and former classmate, and she happens to own Taylor Dale Photography.
She was like, I'll be there.
She was there in a flash. It was a lot to arrange in a short time, but Honey got her first look.
There was no dry eye in the room, even me.
When she opened her eyes, the first picture that Taylor took was her, and she said, it is just so beautiful. And she kept telling me over and over how beautiful it was, and she was glad that it covered me.
Having my grandfathers, pass away, it hits hard. So I cried the entire time when I was editing them, and I was smiling because I knew behind that she was making jokes, and it was just a good session to edit.
Out of my 25 years, that's my favorite memory I'll ever have in general, especially with her. Those memories are something I'll have forever. And when my kids get older, they can look back and see the appreciation that I had for my grandmother, and hopefully they'll have it, my kids will have it for the same appreciation for their grandmother.
Honey died 8 days after those photos were taken. So 4 months later, when Bethany and her fiance finally said "I do" last weekend, they did it without Honey. Or did they?
As the ceremony was starting, a duck came up to near the gazebo where we were. And as soon as the ceremony either really started or as it ended, that duck went away. I feel like she was really there. There was just little signs of her being there.